All right, I think we are now live, hopefully. Let me just check everything is on and working. And yeah, I think we're all good. Cool. So yeah, hi everyone, welcome to another Voclear live stream. As you've seen from the title, today we're basically going to be taking a look at orchestral composition with your voice. Like all live streams as well, we'll be doing the usual stuff, so I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. So if you do have specific questions about Doubler or anything else, then let me know and I'll keep an eye out and can answer and do demos. Let me know as well if there's any audio issues or if I'm too loud or too quiet, and we'll try adjust as we go. But yeah, so basically in this stream, I'm going to say orchestral composition with your voice. What that means more specifically is basically what I want to take a look at is how you can use Doubler in quite like creative ways to compose kind of more traditional orchestral stuff. It's something that we get asked a lot about, using your voice with things like violins and pianos. And, it works well because it's your voice is quite dynamic and it works well for these kind of more natural sounds. So yeah, that's something we'll be exploring, but we're going to take a look at the chords in Doubler and interesting ways that they can play a part in orchestral composition. We'll be taking a look at how the control dials can also play a part in this as well. We'll also be taking a look at how you can get creative with MIDI effects and effect chains within your DAWs to expand your kind of songwriting using Doubler. So there's a kind of a basic way of doing it, which I'll show you as in terms of using Doubler, singing single notes, layering these up and stuff. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper than that. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on the track. Hello to Iman, how's it going? If I do trail off as well and forget to look at the chat, then do shout at me. I'll try to keep an eye on things. Also, one thing worth mentioning now at the beginning as well is that we do have our Black Friday sale happening starting from next Wednesday or Thursday, I think our pre-sale is. I know we announced recently on socials that we'll also be saying on the stream what those discounts and stuff will be. So if you are interested in that, then the software only and Studio Kit will be 30% off starting from next week. So if you aren't a Doubler owner but you're interested and you want to wait till next week, then you can sign up on our website. There's a big banner and you can sign up for the pre-sale and you'll be emailed and notified as soon as that goes live, and you can get those discounts, and that'll be running for a few days after Black Friday. So yeah, for anyone who's interested in that, that's the little sales pitch. Hello to these people joining. Yeah, so what we can do is dive straight in. So let me minimize and move some of this around. And we'll go to screen and camera. I always forget that I'm in the top right, so if also let me know if I start to obscure some of the windows, like the plugins or the Doubler. You can't see what I'm talking about. I have to do that quite a lot on these live streams. So yeah, so basically I've got Doubler here. I'm using just the WSB mic with it at the moment, and I'm just in a profile with a key on. We'll look at orchestral triggers actually as well. We'll do that, but we'll focus on pitch first, singing. So I've basically just got I'm in a key. I'm in G harmonic minor. The keys are quite important for this, and we'll go into that in a bit of how these selecting the keys and scales can really change the sound of these compositions. But what I've got here is very super simple, just a piano and a cello track. So basically kind of what I mentioned before, the very simple ways is as Doubler normally works, we've kind of got this piano track taking info from Doubler 2, and we're just on single notes. Where's Doubler? Come on. There it is. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so very simple. It's just taking the single notes that I sing. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, getting a bit of audio clicks. I'm not sure if it's liking streaming, and we'll see how this goes in a bit. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, so that's super basic, and you know, as you guess, you can record these single notes, da, 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 and whatever, edit them, start layering them up, and build compositions. But we're gonna get a little bit more clever about it than that. So as well as just individual single notes, what we can also do in Doubler 2 is play chords as well. So if I hit chords on, then we have triads, and that means it's going to play piano with a full chord. So that's quite high on the velocity. So yeah, it's all very velocity sensitive, this plugin as well. But yep, so as well as single notes, I can also play chords. If we go into the chords tab, you can see how this works. So if I sing a C, it's going to give me a C minor, D, D major, and this is all based on just like a preset. So I don't need to know about theory. It's doing this based on the key I'm in. So that's G harmonic minor. So cool. We've got single notes and we've got chords. But if we want to play something like that, and we want to kind of get a bit creative with the piano, we can obviously just sing single notes at a time, and we have to layer it up. But if we want to do something live that has multiple notes, we can do that using chords, single notes at the same time, and splitting up the MIDI channels. So the first thing that I'm actually going to do, so we'll go to the cello in a bit. So with the piano, I'm going to duplicate this track. And what we'll do is try and create a left and right hand effect. So this will basically be, at the same time, based on just simple melodies that we're singing, we're going to try to control some chords with a kind of pretend left hand, and a right hand playing a sort of melody that goes over these chords as you would a normal piano player. So let's rename this so we don't get confused. Let's go left hand. So what I'm doing as well, I'm using Ableton right now, but this principle again, like a lot of our streams, the stuff I'm doing here applies to most DAWs. A lot of them have these kind of effects that I'll be using, and I'm just using, the piano sound I'm using is an Unicorder, which is really nice. It's Contact's Unicorder plugin. So yeah, again, that's also available in every DAW. So left and right hand, let's group these tracks as well, just to make things nicer. And so let's focus on left hand first. So left hand. So on this one, we just want these chords that we're playing and nothing else. So if we go and look in Doubler, the first thing we're going to do is separate the chords from the individual notes that we're singing. So Doubler works where at the moment it sends by default, the pitch and chords will both be sent out on MIDI channel 1. But in here we can actually change that. So our pitch, that's our single notes that I'm singing, like da, 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 goes on one MIDI channel. And the overlapping chords that we've got assigned in Doubler are going out on a different MIDI channel. So that's going to go on MIDI channel 2. So let me set this to channel 2 and receiving input. And why we do that split will be important later once we open up the cello as well. So this is just taking our chords. Da, 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 da. Cool. Maybe lower that octave a bit. Da, da. No, let's do it higher. Da, 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 da. So it's quite velocity sensitive. I might try and change that a little bit because I'm not particularly interested right now in controlling the dynamics with my voice that much. I'm just looking to get these chords and notes. So I'm going to put a velocity kind of plug in so it never goes above a certain amount. So that means I can sing and I don't have to worry about these big loud piano bangs. Excuse me. Da, da, da. Cool. It's a bit smoother. So we've got these chords that our left hand's doing, and now here where it's getting a little bit more interesting, we want to do that with our right hand as well. So we've got these chords. Let's actually use the same plugin in there as well. But we want to split these up and we want to get separate notes, and this is where we can use arpeggiators to split up these chords into individual notes that we're singing and holding. So you can see in the keyboard in doubler, when I hold a note, those ones that light up are the individual notes that make up that chord. If you want, you can also actually change this as well, where in the voicing, you can do spread and cluster. This changes how spread apart the individual notes are. And you can also decide if you want the root note bass line to play or not as well. So we'll keep it to spread. You see these notes spread about quite far. So let's put an arpeggiator in before this. So now we've got an arpeggiator, what it's going to do is going to split up the notes and play them at a set rate that I choose. So if I just hold this, we're not going to put hold on as well, we'll keep that off. So the notes will play as long as I hold the note that I'm singing. Da, 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 da. So cool, it's splitting up those notes, but as you'll hear, it's pretty robotic. It's kind of da, 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 which doesn't sound particularly great. So we want to try and humanize it a little bit. We want to try and make it less to the grid and to a tempo and sounding a bit more like free and, yeah, more like a human was actually playing notes. So let's turn sync off. So sync is, that means we're on a free rate now, which means the speed at which these notes are being played is not set to a specific BPM. So we can find something that's just feels a bit more natural. So whilst we're playing with that rate, you'll hear that when it changes slightly, that's a bit more human as well, because when you're playing piano, unless you're an incredibly good pianist with a sort of inbuilt metronome in your brain, you're not going to stay at the exact same rate each time. So we want to actually vary this a little bit. So as we're holding these notes, the individual notes that are making up that chord are kind of being played at different intervals slightly, timing-wise. So to do that, let's get an LFO from the modulators. So if you don't know what LFOs are, it's low frequency oscillator, and it's basically a wave, and what we can do is map this wave, the LFO, to a parameter that we want to control. So that's the rate of the individual notes that we're being played on an arpeggiator. If you're not following, if you're not too versed in like specific DAW stuff, then let me know and I can also break it down even further. But what I'm basically going to do is press map, and you basically see now the rate is moving based on the rate of the LFO that I have. But we want to slow that way down, and we want to also get that within a range that sounds kind of more human. So let's turn the depth, change the offset, smooth it, and you see it's wobbling around these numbers, but quite slowly and not too far. So let's see how that sounds. Cool, so that's sounding now a little bit more interesting. You know, we're still using MIDI, we're still using that arpeggiator and stuff, so it's always going to sound a little bit robotic, but we're getting closer now. Let's put some reverb on it. So just to also re-explain, it's still taking, I'm still deciding what's being played based on the root note, and I'm matching the chord and the root note using the chords feature in Doubler 2. So just to reiterate, if I'm singing a C, I'm getting a C minor. If I'm singing a D, I'm getting a D major. And that's what's deciding the notes that are being played. So I'm still having full control of that with my voice, and I can decide if I have a melody idea how that sounds in my head. If I've got these other ideas, if I'm singing da da da, but I'm hearing other patterns going on top, I can actually get that live using techniques like this. So both together we have the chords on the left hand, individual notes on the right hand, and we've also slapped on a bunch of reverb. So let's try that. That's why the velocity. Let's put that back on this one as well. MIDI effects. stick that on there and lower it again. Da, 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 da. So when I'm singing on the pitch wheel, I'll bring Big Doubler up to kind of explain this in more detail. You'll see where the pitch wheel is going. You'll see on the in-app keyboard the chords that are being output, and then you'll also hear kind of how that sounds. Da, 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 da. Cool. So that's kind of how we're using basic ideas with Doubler and some kind of little effects to enhance that kind of basic melody. The range is quite a lot. It does get quite fast, so I might even lower this even more so it doesn't change as drastically. Let's put the depth down a bit. Cool. So what's really important here, though, as well, is how the sound it's really dependent on the keys and scales, and we can experiment and by clicking in different ones, and you can see how that changes the sound and the feeling of what we're doing. We're just singing. Oh, someone's saying the output is no longer audible. Let me have a look at that. Da, da, da. Okay, give me a second. So I can find OBS doesn't seem to want to open. Oh, what's gone wrong here then? All right, technical troubles. Give me a second then. Let me try and figure this out. So we can't hear this at all. Is that right? Da, da, da. Okay. Okay, give me a couple of minutes whilst I deal with this. Okay. So, yeah, we're saying... Let's try being OBS up and have a look and check that's working again then. OBS. Da, da, da. Let's change the audio again. Black hole. We have a fiddle around. We had to try a different audio routing thing today, which is fun because it wasn't working previously. So let's see if this works. Da, da, da. Put this black to black hole. Da, 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 da. Okay, I think that should be fixed. Da, da, da. It's so I was saying it last time. It was crackling. Sounded like a buffer issue. The CPU is running fine and it seems smooth to me. So I wonder if it was maybe an OBS thing. It seems stable. Well, we'll carry on and hope for the best. Though the internet does seem... maybe we are getting some drops. I think maybe it's an internet issue. We should be plugged in. Okay, well, I'm going to carry on. And if it does, we are using quite CPU-heavy plugins. These piano sounds, those contact unicorders, they're like big sample things that are quite heavy, but we should be good. Well, thanks for your patience. It's the joy of live streams. I think the internet should be okay. Let me have one more look. Nah, it's is bad. All right, a couple more minutes. We'll get the audio done, and we'll get internet done. You wiggle around in here a bit. If we need, I can try and leave and rejoin on the Wi-Fi, see if it fixes it. Let's stick with that for now. We'll carry on. Let me know though. I'll keep an eye out as well if the same thing happens. I don't know when what the last thing you heard from me was. I don't know what we were explaining. All I was doing was tweaking the rates on the LFOs to get a more natural sound, and we were discussing what we were discussing. We were looking at how these chords, so what I'm singing and how that kind of dictates the individual notes. Oh, and scales. That's what we got to. So scales. So basically, how the scales that we've picked are going to decide the overall sound and feeling of this little structure that we've built with the left and right hand. So right now we're in G harmonic minor, and we're using the chords preset, the triads, to decide chords based on the root note. So I'm singing just individual notes, like I only can with my voice, so da 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 da. But how that actually has a feel to it is really dependent on the individual notes that make up the chords, and so is dependent on the scale. So we can mess around and basically see how different ones in this list sound and find one that we like. And that's a really interesting way, I think, to explore. It's just kind of like almost like clicking different presets like you would in the plugin, you know. So we're in harmonic minor. You've already heard it. It sounds like this. Da, 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 da. Cool, harmonic minor. So let's change that now to something different. Let's go Phrygian. So what that is a mode. If you don't know your scales and theory, that's okay, because I don't either, and I'm just clicking around. So yeah, so we're on Phrygian now, and you'll hear now as I sing similar things, these individual notes. We're going to get a different feel. Da, 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 da. So that now sounds a lot happier, and it's got a more kind of like a joyful sound than the harmonic minor Phrygian. We can go a little bit weird if we do Hungarian Gypsy Minor with this kind of grouping of notes that are like 3 semitones apart. We can again still get stranger things. Da, 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 da. And even weirder, you can do things like whole tone. This is kind of more experimental. It's going to group up these chords, the notes. Da, da, da. Quite disharmonic kind of sounding. But all of that, what's going on theory-wise, is all being done kind of with doubler. What we're doing is feeding the general, the bass idea and melody, and what's being played and expanded on. We're deciding through scales and chords. So let's try Dorian as well. Da, 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 da. Cool. I'm going to go back to harmonic minor because I quite like the sound of that one. Da, 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 da. Cool. I'm going to tweak this a little bit as well, even more. Let's up the depth on that. Yep. So I think I haven't heard anything else, so I'm going to presume we're still good. If not, let me know. So we've got the chords playing these sounds, and now let's take a look at what that actually means for individual notes that we maybe want to do with cellos. So this is where the MIDI channel split that we've done really comes into play. So if you remember in the Assign tab, we were sending our chords on channel 2 and our pitch is still on channel 1. So that means the single notes we're playing aren't going out on that. What I'll actually do is actually just record very quickly what goes in to your DAW what these channels are receiving, so you can kind of understand that a bit better. So let me record these. Not just that one, we want both of them. Da, 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 da. And if you click on these clips, what's going in are the chords. Yep, so we've got chords here. And if we set this channel to channel 1, then what we can get is single notes. Da, 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 da. So although it's still playing chords in doubler, that's not getting sent to the cello. We're only getting the single note. So if I record that in, da, 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 it's playing those chords again. But you see now in this MIDI information, we're getting single notes. So despite us only singing one thing, we're actually sending out different notes on different channels and splitting it up. And what that enables us to do is live in real time create things that would otherwise need a lot of layering. So, you know, we'd need to layer the chords, and then we'd need to layer the individual notes going da 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 da. And then we'd also then after that want to layer the individual cello sounds and strings as well. But we can do that all live using this kind of technique. You can also have a play around with how they interact. So things like octaves and stuff, with things like the shift function and the octave in here. So all together, all these three at the same time. Let's see if the CPU likes it or not. I think we should be good. Dun, 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 Cool, so we've got quite a full sounding rich thing there. You'll also notice as well, just with the length and the dynamics I can still play with. So if I just do short, sharper notes, I'm not going to get the individual arpeggiators notes on the right hand because we don't have hold on. So that's still dun, 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 dun. And if I want longer notes, I can then start to get these dun, dun. So I'm still having full control as well as the bass melody, the dynamics of the track. But let's say we also want to mess around with octave. So right now the chords are following, so this follow button, so the chord will follow the octave that's being sung. So if I go high, sorry, I have to submit you to my horrible high singing. And if I go really low, oh, that's so low that it's struggling to do it. But maybe I want to split those up. So if I turn follow off, the shift function will dictate the output of the octave of the chords. So if I want to go up high, I can now have my piano on a higher octave and my cello can still stay on this bruised note. So let's really make that obvious. So this will be on 0, the chords will be in +1, the difference between them now. Let's go even higher. So you can see that cello's low, keys are high. I don't know what that sounded like, something that did. Yeah, so that's a lot of fun. I'm going to keep it back to follow as well because I quite like them all sounding quite harmonious and together. But that's a really fun way to start to separate your sounds a bit using octave shift. Yeah, kind of what I'm doing. I'm really exploring these little individual parameters that you can play with in doubler and how powerful they can be if you want to explore them in your DAW. You know, all of these little tweaking things are not just for just when you're recording a single melody like duh, duh, duh. They can really play quite an impactful role when you're recording something live, and it pushes the limits of what you can do just with your voice. So yeah, I would encourage you to always have a play around with those. So next steps. So we're controlling individual notes, we're controlling chords, we're controlling cellos, and now that's all of that's dynamic and velocity sensitive as well. And now we can even go one step further, and we can also have a look at the sound on these individual plugins with control dials. So this is an extra layer. If you don't know what control dials are already, they're these dials on the right-hand side of doubler. They are the vowels E, R, U, and the fourth one is envelope. So they move based on the way I sing. So when I'm singing with the R vowel is up. If I go E, the E goes up. E, R, U, E, R, E, R, U. So I'm singing one note, but the dials there are changing. So this is really cool because it allows us to change sounds or any parameter really that we want with the way we sing. So let's first take a look at just individual sounds. So I think these might be mapped already, but if we go to sample modeling, apologies, this is really small. You see bow noise is on 21. Let's actually have a look. We want pitch control, no, sound control, vibrato delay, real time. Yeah, here we go, real time sound shaping. So there's different ways you can do MIDI mapping as well. We can MIDI map in the traditional method. I'll show you that in a second. If I want to be quick, I might just map these already are on CC values. So if you don't know about that, CC dials are, or CC values are what the control dials in doubler are sending out. If you're interested in boring MIDI stuff like that, I am. So this you see is linked to CC1. So the intensity of the vibrato on our cello is decided by information on CC1. And if we go to the Assign tab, each of those vowels that I just mentioned also has a CC dial value or number. So if I want to control that with an R, I might just switch this down to 1. I could map that as well through MIDI mapping. I'm just going to switch this to 1 so it links in sample modeling. And if I sing with an E, let's just solo the cello. The vibrato intensity would be low. If I do an R, it would be high. E, R, E, R, E, R, E, R. So singing with E, nice smooth sound, R, high vibrato intensity. Cool, so that's one way that control dials can start to impact what we're doing. But it's not just the sound in the plugins that we can link. We can also link individual MIDI effects as well. So say we want to control effects in our arpeggiator. I know we're going quite in depth here. I might be losing some people. So if you want to go back to basics, you can do. But I quite like exploring these things. Say on our arpeggiator on what we're singing with our chords on this piano. Da, 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 da. Let's put this up an octave. Da, 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 da. And if we do steps, that's going to add more notes on, so that can wobble between da. I know actually, let's what I could show you actually might be even more interesting is instead of having this linked to an LFO, that rate, so the speed at which the notes are played, we could even control with the way we sing, which is really interesting. So if we go to MIDI map, if I want to control this rate, I can go into doubler, go to the Assign tab, let's link that to E, for example. And I want to be really specific here with the range that I'm working in. So I'm going to change this in doubler. I'm going to really hone this in and get this to, I think maybe that should be, or is that high or low actually? No, we want it around here. We want it low, don't we? So what this does is set the output. So you know I want this to never wobble above or below a certain amount. E, I, wrong way around. We want this high. I was right the first time. Let's make it a bit bigger. I'll just turn that up. This will sound quite bad, but it will show you really what's going on, kind of really highlight. So basically when I sing with an E, we get slow notes. When I sing with an R, we get fast notes. E, R. That was way too fast, but you get the picture basically. So that's another way that we can start to control things. I'm going to put that back on the LFO because it keeps it a bit more stable. So it's not just sounds, it's also notes and composition that we can affect with how we're singing. So now we've got, let's see how that sounds with the vibrato. Actually, let's also look at what sounds we've got on, I might look at these big chords. So let's, ba, 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 ba. We've got colour, ba, 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 ba. Space, let's turn the reverb maybe. Ba, 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 ba. Cool, I quite like the sound of that. So let's link vowels to space as well. Put that on. I don't want to configure on and off. This process of mini-mapping changes for every door. Again, I say this throughout the stream. I'm just using Ableton here, but all of this you can do in every other door. It's just about finding the ways, depending on what software you're using. So now we're going to link space amount. Let's link that to E as well. So let's do the min-max range. We'll keep that as the full thing. I'm going to delete that mapping, turn that off. So now we can go dry, and then with an E, 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 Okay, maybe I was wrong about it doing the full range. That's a bit mental, but cool. So now we're going to get vibrato with the cello. We've still got the LFO on the free range, on the free rate on the individual notes, but now we've also got some reverb on our underlying chords as well, based on the way we sing. So let's see how that sounds all together. Let's bring double up. Just turn the cello down a little bit. I don't want to boost these even more. Let's just up the gain in here. Cool, so that's all completely live with these individual notes. We're getting these quite complex things, and now we're actually also hearing, you can hear that vibrato and that cello quite clearly when we hit those A's, and also that reverb. So what I'll also show you now as well is how that looks when you record it. So we're going to get single notes, we're going to get chords, and all that information we've got is also going to be stored. So I can show you how that looks and what that means for when you want to go back and edit and do these things. So to make this easier, I might record in arrangement view. This is kind of more like traditional doors. You got your left to right. So if you're used to things like Logic and stuff, this will probably make more sense. Okay, let me take a sip of water. So we're going to record automation and the MIDI notes and see how that looks. Maybe let's have another quick play around as well before I do that on a scale. When we try different ones, we've been in harmonic minor for a while. Major, do we want a happy one? Do we want happy or sad? Dun, 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 dun. I mean, I'm a sucker for more sad things, to be honest. I think I need, in my goth phase, I want my harmonic minors, I want my semitones. Dun, 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 dun. Phrygian's a bit happy as well. Makes a Lydian. How does that sound? Dun, 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 dun. Nah, you know what? Let's do the harmonic minor. So let's record in and press play on this. Dun, 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 dun. So I'm wobbling around a bit with notes, I'm just improvising there. But so you can see what I was talking about before. We've got our individual cello notes. We've got our chords. And our individual notes. These are still chords, but they're being processed by the arpeggiator, so you're not going to see them as individual notes. If you did want to see them as individual notes, I can show you actually what's going out there. So I can set the MIDI input to come from the right hand, and I'll just record that just if you're curious. So you see, these are the individual notes that are making up these chords that is playing back. So, yeah, so that's what we've got. But remember, we're also recording in, automation, which was the stuff that's controlling things like the space amount that we just mapped previously. So you can see now here, we've got space amount, and all this information is what's dictating the reverb on that piano. So it starts high. Actually, you know what? I think I was singing just without the E's and R's. Let me re-record, so I'll make that even more obvious so you can see what's going on there. And let's configure, I think, that vibrato intensity. Will that work? Yeah. And link these in here so we can see that clearly as well. So I'm going to MIDI map, go to vibrato intensity, and double, let's map to 1. And now I'll do some more obvious E's and R changes so you see how that looks. E, R. Cool. So there's our little composition based on what we're singing. It's me struggling to hit that high note there. Cool. So again, like I said before, single notes chords, but yeah, here's the automation. So these are the lines that's being drawn. This is basically the dial going up and down. So if you watch down here, here's the reverb, and if you follow this line, that's it up, goes down, dry, based on the way I'm singing, high again, dry again. Same with our cello down here. If you watch the vibrato intensity, low, here it go high, back down low, and that's stuff that we can all edit as well. A good tip, different DAWs do this different ways. We've got a lot of automation points here, so each of these things you can move about, but we've got a lot of ones. If you want to edit them a bit nicely, let's right click and do simplify, and now we've got a few less points that we can actually edit a bit more clearly. Cool. So yeah, and I could play with those and fiddle around and really get it accurate. Let's push these notes higher. Let's get some like big occasional spikes of reverb if I wanted to do that. It might sound bad, to be honest. And let's quickly clear up that horrible little run there. I might leave it for these ones. Cool. So we've covered quite a lot in that. That's one of those things where, I know I've gone quite in depth with playing around, but I think it's really fun to look at being creative with what Doubler offers with these little tips, these kind of like using shift features, using chord mappings, using keys and scales, splitting MIDI channels, automating things as well. And all in one time, an idea you can really explore. A simple idea that you hear has more stuff on top of your head. Instead of having to layer piece by piece, you can do actually live, which is quite difficult to do. Also, if you are, a good tip for dub as well, if you have a keyboard already like I have here, I don't think it's actually connected on, then you could also play your chords as you normally would with your hand and still layer up cellos and violins with your voice. As Doubler works with other MIDI controllers really well. It's by no means ever intended just as a replacement as well. Cool. So yeah, I guess that is an overview. If you want to watch it back, if you are interested in using this technique, this will be uploaded straight after the stream as well. But if anyone else has any demos or questions and stuff they want to see, I'll wait a few minutes, see if anyone's in the chat. But if not, I think we're close to wrapping up. But yeah, like I was saying, the YouTube, all the live streams are uploaded straight afterwards. A reminder on Black Friday, that's starting next week. You can sign up on our website for the pre-sale on that if you haven't purchased it and are interested. And there'll be another live stream as well next month, December. There'll be a Christmas live stream. I'll confirm the date on that. We'll upload it. We actually do also have a new live stream section on our website if you haven't seen. So if you go to the Learn page on the left-hand side near where all the support articles are, is also where we have a live stream section. Let me try and find it, see what it looks like. And on that, you can see what we've got coming up. Where is that? Yeah, let me switch over so you can see. Yeah, on here in the Learn section of Doubler, live streams. If you go on here, that's one we're watching right now. And very soon there'll be the next one coming up as well. So do check that out. But yeah, as always, if you have something you want to see on our next live streams, let us know. We've got our forum over here. You can select, suggest things on here that you want to see. You can message us by DM as well, or you can also reach us by email. We're always happy to chat. But yeah, if there's no questions or demos, I think we can wrap it up. I hope that was interesting. Yeah, thanks for joining us on the stream, and we'll see you guys all again.